Hi, everybody. Welcome to our mast cell community. I'm so happy that you're here with us. And today we're going to be talking about haywire mast cells, the intricacies of the mast cell nervous system connections. And I want to talk about this in some ways that I haven't talked about before. And so I know we've gone over the relationship between mast cells and the nervous system quite a few times. But today I want to bring in a new angle for you, a new way of framing this and looking at it that I think will really help you to be able to put some of this into action. So as people are joining, I want to cover some of our disclaimers that we always do here. And we pop our slides up here. So again, we're getting into, are your mast cells haywire? But a new angle on this, some angles that we haven't covered before. And as you're joining, if you can let me know you're here, just pop a hi in for me in the comments. And I love to know where people are from. And that's the way I can see who's actually on here live with us. While people are joining, I want to cover that this is, of course, for informational and educational purposes, not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent illness. Of course, always work with your healthcare provider. And if you see affiliate links, that means Mast Cell 360 may make a very small commission if you purchase through those links. We do only recommend products that we love or personally use in the practice. And if you use our links, it never costs you anything extra. Those commissions go to help support the newsletter, the website, our ongoing research, all the free things that we put out for you all. So if you're able to use our links, we always appreciate your support. Hi, everybody. So great to see where you're from. Thank you for popping that in for me. And then our slides here are copyright. So we're going to do our Q&A at the end like usual, our reminders to please keep your questions on topic. So we're covering the mast cell nervous system connections today. Like I said at the beginning, for those of you just joining, I want to talk about this from a little different angle, a new angle that we've not been covering. So this will be good for those of you who are new to our community. And if this is, this is one of your first times joining us, or maybe you joined us from the summit, I'd love to know if you're new here. Just let me know that in the comments. And those of you who've heard this a few times, this is going to bring some a different angle for you, a different depth of understanding for you, what I want to cover today. Do please just submit questions once. I'll get to as many as I can. So if you just submit it once, it helps me to get to more questions. And I appreciate your understanding. I'm not able to do off-topic questions or in-depth personal health questions. So this nervous system mast cell connection, let's set a framework for this. Why do we talk about this so much? So you've probably heard me talking about how mast cells line the nerve sheaths, how mast cells line every nerve ending, how the mast cells are really the interface between the nervous system and the rest of the body. And in understanding mast cell activation syndrome, this is very, very critical. So I'm going to show you some structural pieces about the nervous system that are very important to know about when you have mast cell issues. And then I want to talk about a practice that I integrate every day. And it's something I haven't spoken about before, I haven't shared with you all before. So I really want to share with you today. And it can help you tremendously. And it's very easy to do. You can do it every day. It's very simple. And it will carry you for a long, long time. So I'm going to share that with you here today. The mast cell nervous system connection is entirely about feeling safe, feeling deeply safe. And it's about feeling safe in a way that very few people I've met in my life feel on a daily basis. And that's what we're going to be working on creating as we're talking about this practice I'm going to share with you. But I want to give you the context for that and why, why does that matter? Why does it matter if we feel safe? Well, let's look at this. The mast cells and the nerve interactions are involved in every system in the body. So this is just a little snapshot. Just a little snapshot here showing you how this mast cell nerve interaction is important in the heart. So if you have any kind of heart symptoms, if you have heart palpitations, if you have any arrhythmias in your heart, this mast cell nervous system interaction is critical with the lungs and with breathing. So if there are any breathing issues, and actually the diaphragm, I find a lot of people have issues with their diaphragms. Even the skin, so many people get hives, itching, rashes. Did you know you can actually improve that? Things like eczema, psoriasis, through working with some of these practices we're going to talk about. It's quite amazing. And I do want to say this image came from the 2019 paper called Mast Cells and Neuroimmune Interactions. And I want to make sure that our practitioners on here have that citation. Of course, the brain, there's lots of relationships between mast cells and the brain and the gut, the GI tract, any kind of GI tract issues, whether it's constipation, it's diarrhea, it's reflux, it's gastroparesis, which means slow stomach emptying. There's a role with the mast cell nerve interaction, but it's beyond just that. It's the thyroid, it's the swallowing, it's the liver, the spleen, the pancreas, blood sugar, the adrenals, all of these things. So let's go over how do you know if your mast cells are haywire. So I'm going to go through some things, and if you can get pen and paper, or you can do this on, a little document, Word document on your laptop, or Pages document if you're on Apple. If you're driving, you can always come back to this. Or if you're good at keeping count in your head, you can do this in your head. But I'm going to go over symptoms of haywire mast cells, and I want you to count how many of these you have. And then if you'd like to share, of course, you don't have to, but I'd love to know what your score is, if you can put that in the comments for me. So let's go through this. And some of you did this with me several months ago. So if you did it several months ago, it'd be really good to see where your score is today. Has it changed? So let's go through this together. Do you startle easily? So this would be if somebody's standing behind you, and let's say somebody's standing behind me, my husband, I didn't know he was there, and all of a sudden he says, Beth, would I jump? So same for you, would you jump? Do you have a weak gag reflex? So you get 1 point for each of these. So if you startle easily, that's 1 point. A weak gag reflex would mean that you could brush the very back of your tongue and you wouldn't gag. So if you have a weak gag reflex, that would be 1. Or do you have an overly strong gag reflex? That can go either way. Overly strong gag reflex means that you start to brush your teeth, and you're on your back molars and you start to gag, or you brush just the front and the middle of your tongue, you start to gag, or you can't handle a tongue depressor like they use at the doctor's office. So some people are just still hopping on. We are doing Are Your Mast Cells Haywire? So we are counting how many points we get. So give yourself 1 point for every one that you see that relates to you. And then I'd love it if you could post your score for me. So do you have trouble sleeping? That's falling asleep or staying asleep. Do you wake up tired? Do you feel wired and tired? So this is where you're really exhausted, but you're too wound up to be able to rest or relax. Do you feel wired if you have too much conversation? If you listen to too much, you have too much interaction, or there's just too much going on in your day, does that make you feel wired? Do you have trouble with intestinal motility? So this means either chronic constipation or diarrhea. Things are too slow or they're too fast. Do you get easily stressed with changes? Do you have anxiety or depression? High or low blood pressure? So we've got a few more of these, so I'm going to give this just a moment so you can finish totaling your score on this page. And then we'll go to the next one. So you can always, these are recorded, you guys, so you can go back and listen to it again if you need to. Do you have any level of light or sound sensitivity? So this would be you have trouble listening to music, or you have trouble with the lights being on inside. I used to have to wear sunglasses in the house. Do you have trouble with sunlight? Do you have trouble with fluorescent lights in stores? Things like that. Do you have supplement or medication reactions? Do you have EMF sensitivities? Mold sensitivities? Do you have sensitivities to perfume or cologne? So this is like if you're like I was and you have to wear, or fragrances in general. I used to have to hold my breath to go down the laundry detergent aisle, or I'd feel like I was going to pass out if somebody was wearing perfume next to me. Do you have other chemical sensitivities? This is like paint, gasoline, off-gassing from new furniture. Do you have any history of chronic Lyme or those co-infections like Bartonella or Babesia? Do you have constant food reactions? Like every time you eat, you're getting, every time I ate, my hands would swell. You might get itching. I used to get itching every time I ate, those kinds of things. And then this might be a gimme for everybody on here. Do you have mast cell activation syndrome? Autoimmunity? And then another one is just nothing you do works. So count the number of points you had total out of all of those. And I'd love to see what you come up with. So if you can put your number for me in the comments there. So I'm counting here how many total we have. I didn't count that before I came on. So this is our first page. So we've got a total of 22. Okay, so we've got some different numbers coming in here. So we have some people around 8 or 9. We have some people more around 17, 15, 16, 11, 10 points, 18 points. So I had all of these almost, except autoimmunity. I've not been diagnosed with it. There's been some questions. And then Carmen-19 plus mastocytosis. So you could substitute mastocytosis for the MCAS, Carmen. That would definitely count. And I could reframe that as a mast cell disorder. Why don't we call it that? All right. So I'm going to talk to you about what to do about these now that you know what your score is. Thank you for putting that in there. That's really helpful for me to see and where our community is falling so I can shape what we're going to talk about here. Why do our mast cells get haywire? So you probably know most of these, but I want to go over a few of them here. Why do the mast cells get haywire? One is just too many life changes at once can actually trigger us. So think about this for you. Moving, getting a new job, addition or loss of family members. This could be a new baby in the household. This could be getting married. This could be, especially when you get married and you have a blended family. So you not only got married, but you brought some of your partner's kids into the house. This is a lot of people, chronic emotional stressors. And it's incredible how many people have that we just think of as being normal. And we've really normalized this, but it's not healthy. And so many people I talk to have difficult relationships. It's going to be their personal or their work life. They have somebody in their life who's just really not supportive about their health, or disordered relationships even where it's abusive. And many people don't even recognize. But let me give you a context for a healthy relationship, work or personal. And it took me a long time to start to understand this. And I'm somebody who gives everybody the benefit of the doubt, and realized that some people in my life were not operating by the same ground rules that I was. And this is really important for my healing. And that's why we're talking about this, because it's important for everybody's healing. And I'm going to get into some of the framework of why here in a second. So again, it all comes to safety. Our healing happens in the context of feeling safe. Are we in the safety mode of the nervous system, called the parasympathetic nervous system? And that's where, as we get into some of the structural piece, I'm going to talk about. A healthy personal relationship is reciprocal in compassion. It's reciprocal in understanding. And it's not controlling. And I have a couple of just incredible friends in my life that when we're together, even if we don't agree on something, maybe we don't agree on politics, or we don't agree on some other viewpoint, it's not controlling, it's not charged. And as sick as I've been, these were the two friends that stayed. And I lost a lot of friends in my illness. And I bring this up because I know that most likely you have too. And these relationships are quite important for our healing. So think about a healthy relationship is reciprocal, meaning that there's give and take, and it's balanced in that, and it's compassionate. It's kind. Those are healthy relationships. Healthy and with boundaries. So yes, thank you, Taylor, with boundaries. That's very important as well. And I just want to share this from Taylor. Boundaries are essential, even if that means you end up alone, but that's where this community comes in. That's exactly right. And I want to be able to give you guys a container for that kind of community. It's so important for us in our healing. And work life as well, healthy relationships. A lot of people have unhealthy work relationships, unfortunately. Healthy work relationships have boundaries and have understanding, and people show up and they do their best. And then when there's something that comes up, there's understanding for that. And abuse should not be tolerated, whether somebody is 2 years old, or sometimes some of my clients who've had elderly parents who are abusive. It's not tolerated if somebody's 2 years old, or if they're 92 years old. So things to just little nuggets I just want to set out there for you. We could do a whole Facebook Live just on that, but it's really important. I want to touch on it here. Some of the other things that are chronic emotional stressors that are familiar for most of us are financial stressors, world events, and politics. And this is why I tell people, stay off the news. I just scan the headlines, and that's about all I do, because if I want to stay up to date with what's happening so that I can be aware of what's affecting people, so that I can send compassion, but I don't want to get dysregulated. And I also tell my clients, focus on watching feel-good movies. Don't watch really stressful movies. And because again, that's going to dysregulate the nervous system. And the more that we do that, the more it's going to send our mast cells to be haywire. Now there's some other triggers as well. So these are some of the emotional side. But chemical exposures, I'm amazed at the chemicals people get from working in a hospital. We can get them being nearby factories, military environments, and just air pollution. Los Angeles is one of the most polluted cities in the country. I think it's #1. So we think about these big cities and the type of air quality, and that's why air quality is important. And we'll talk about more of these other triggers as we go along in our Facebook Lives. And then chronic EMF exposure. So this is being near a router. This is having a lot of Wi-Fi devices in your house. I've got everything. I work on hardwired, which really helps me quite a bit. Being near high-powered power lines, I try to stay away from those. things like that. So a few other triggers. Mold toxicity I talk about so often. It's a big trigger of the haywire mast cells. Lyme and co-infections being things like Bartonella, Babesia, and so on. Pandas and PANS, and especially see that in children. And then traumas, and these can be even affecting you from early childhood. So early childhood trauma can leave you in a state through your adulthood life of not feeling safe. And that's what we're going to do, is be working on today in this Facebook Live. How do we rewire this so that you can feel deeply safe and likely in a way that you've not felt before? That's my real hope for you, is that you can get there. And that's a practice. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't expect it to happen just in this one Facebook Live, but as a practice, it does happen. Things like abuse, witnessing abuse, medical traumas, whether it was early in our lives or current. Challenging surgeries. These can be a form of trauma because the nervous system doesn't understand the context. So let's talk about some branches of the nervous system. You've heard of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is the fight, flight, or freeze. And this is what most people are in every day, day in and day out. And what does this look like? This looks like our everyday average normal life. So if I put myself in the shoes of a mom or a dad with some kids in the house, what's your day look like? Well, for most people, it looks like I wake up with the alarm and I try to get up by 6 or 6:30. I've got to get the kids up. I've got to get them dressed. I've got to get their lunches packed and get them off to school. I got to get myself ready for work, and I've got to drive through rush hour traffic. I got to get to work. I work a stressful job. Coming home, I've got to find something healthy to get on the table for dinner. I've got to get the kids' homework done, the kids fed. They've got to get their extracurriculars. We got to get them to bed on time. I got to get myself wound down. Oh shoot, I forgot to pay the water bill. And you wake up the next morning and you do it again. And just talking about it makes me feel stressed out. And that was my life, that kind of pace before I crashed and got really sick. And actually much faster than that. I worked 3 jobs through college and took graduate level courses and did independent study research. And I almost never rested. And that's not natural for us. So what we want is to be in the parasympathetic. Let's look at some of what happens when we're in the sympathetic mode. Most of us are sympathetic dominant, meaning we're here in our waking hours a good 90-95% of the time. So this is what's often called the fight, flight, or freeze response. Blood pressure can go up, except many of us have POTS. So then once that goes on, it drops and we have low blood pressure. But you can be in sympathetic mode, low blood pressure. Heart rate goes up. Actually, really, I should change that and say blood pressure gets dysregulated. Pupils get a little smaller. Breathing gets faster and more shallow. And we're going to bring this into this practice we're going to do here in a minute. It increases adrenaline. Muscles get more tense. Blood flow moves away from the intestines. So think about all of us that have GI issues and trouble with constipation or diarrhea and motility. And the motility slows down. This is getting nuanced. We'll cover this more another time, but motility can be slow in the upper GI tract, even with diarrhea. Gallbladder contracts. That can cause gallbladder pain underneath the breastbone. We get dry eyes. Tear production actually goes down. Bladder contracts, makes it harder to urinate. And we can get increased sweating. Now, many of us then get so sick to where we stop sweating, and I didn't sweat for a long time. Now I'm super happy to sweat again. This is the mode we were created to be in when we were running away from a bear, or we were running away from a lion, or saber-toothed tiger, however we want to think about it. And then we're supposed to switch back over to the parasympathetic mode but something about how our lives have become and what our culture has normalized, we've lost this. But when we watch animals in their natural state, and even traditional humans who are still living outside of these go, go, go cultures, but who live in nature, they spend much of their time, if they're not in a war zone or something like that, they spend much of their time in the parasympathetic state. So this is about it's called the rest and digest and healing response. So that's very important. I want you to hear that. Rest, digest, and heal. Now the parasympathetic and sympathetic, you can think about working like a seesaw. If one's turned on, sympathetic's turned on, parasympathetic is off. Not entirely, but I'm simplifying it. But look, if we can go with this analogy, this is on a very basic level what's happening. Then if we're in sympathetic mode, we're not healing. If we want to calm our mast cells and our mast cell activation, we need to be in the healing response. And I really like for us to be there, setting a goal to be there 20% of our day, then setting a goal for 30%, then 40, 50. My goal for myself is to get to where I'm in this parasympathetic state 75% of my day, 75%. So I really try to model that when we do the Facebook Lives by things like slowing down my speech, being calm, being gentle, so you all can also hopefully start to regulate and shift into that. And so it's an invitation to shift into this response and sense it. How do you know if you're in this response? Well, your blood pressure will start to regulate. If you have high blood pressure, it'll come down. If you have low blood pressure, it may modulate. Your heart rate will slow down. Your pupils will relax. Your breathing will slow down and get more relaxed. You always know the state of your nervous system by the state of your breath. So I'm going to say that again. You always know the state of your nervous system by the state of your breath. So if you just learn and train yourself to follow your breath, you will have a doorway into this that's very powerful for you. So follow your breath. Our adrenaline goes down, muscles can relax, we get better blood flow to the intestines, GI problems greatly improve. It may not be 100% of them, but it's a good percentage of improving them. We get better motility and digestion. The gallbladder can relax. We get better bile flow, improves bladder tone. We get better tear production. And Leslie was asking, now what about holding your breath? So holding your breath is sympathetic. So if you catch yourself holding your breath, or your breath is shallow up here, or it's rapid, parasympathetic is a relaxed breath that comes down into the lower belly. And Kelly, you're not alone here. So you're right. So hard to calm the nervous system when I'm anxious, constantly worrying and waiting about the next reaction and flare. Yes, I completely get it. And this was me too. And so many of us on here have this worry. And so this is part of what we're going to retrain. And I'm going to show you practices to help enter, but this takes a number of practices in your toolkit to reboot and retrain. And I'll give you some other tools you can work with, Kelly, that'll be really helpful for you long term. And I see your wedding picture. I don't know if you got married recently or that's an anniversary picture, but happy wedding or anniversary, either way. Yes, that's common for most people. So dealing with this, so thank you for sharing that. All right, so think about where I want to go. I think this will go right into, this will be really a good segue into talking about, we've talked about before, the limbic system. This is a critical part of the nervous system to know about when you have mast cell activation syndrome. The limbic system is inside your brain. Don't worry about all those other names. They're just aspects of the limbic system. And for those of you who are feeling constantly worried about reactions, you're reacting to everything, you are absolutely in the right place. And the tools we're going to talk about today help with this. And so stay tuned for the rest of what we're going to talk about here. The limbic system has some particular functions for us. So it's deep in the brain. It's below conscious thought, and it's responsible for fear and emotion. It's responsible for long-term memory. So why is that important? Well, this is what sets up the constant worry. Your limbic system was there. So we have to think about the context that the world we live in today, with our computers and our houses and our rubber-soled shoes and all of this, is not the world that we were in 1,000 years ago, right? Or 10,000 years ago. And so the limbic system was set up, and all mammals have a limbic system. The limbic system is about, if you ate that plant and it made you sick, next time you see it, you're going to feel sick again. Don't eat it because it's toxic. That's part of how we learned what was toxic and not toxic. Or last time I went down that trail, I ran into a bear, and there's probably a bear cave down there. So I'm not going to go down. I'm going to feel anxious every time I start to go there. So I'm going to learn to go elsewhere. How it plays out in our mast cell activation, though, is that we have a reaction, and then we think it's because of something specific. Let me give you an example of my life. I was in India. I've shared this story before, but it's a good example. I was in India, and I got dysentery. I was very, very ill from dysentery and almost hospitalized. And I know where I got dysentery. I got it at an Italian restaurant where I made a mistake and should not have eaten the salad, but I ate the salad. And so it was raw vegetables. And for those of you who haven't been to India, you shouldn't eat raw vegetables. So I got severe dysentery, which is a GI bacteria, causes significant diarrhea and dehydration. I was very, very dehydrated. While I was recovering, my friends brought me traditional Indian foods that are gentle on the GI tract, the lentil soups and things like that, and very loving. But I was so nauseated that I couldn't eat the Indian food, and all I felt when I was nauseous and sick, all I smelled was Indian food. So I know in this part of my brain that it was the Italian food that triggered it. But for years, I felt nauseous and anxious every time I smelled Indian food. So how does this play in with your mast cell reactions? Well, even if it wasn't the carrots that you ate, if you had carrots and then you had anaphylaxis, you may feel anxious every time you see carrots, and then that can expand and expand and expand to where you feel anxious constantly. What do we do about that? Well, what we do about it is we reboot this limbic system. So we need to reboot it, and there's some tools for doing that. Particularly, some people are asking about DNRS or Gupta. Yes, those are both excellent programs, and I'll talk with you about how to identify. I'm going to tell you about a course I have in a little bit, and how to identify if you want more details on this. Now, the other important system I want you to know about is the vagal nerve system. So we've got this limbic system deep in the brain, and then we have the vagal nerve system. And this is, I say system because this is more than just a single nerve It's the most complex nerve branches in our bodies. Vagal nerve comes off at the very top of your neck, between your top neck vertebrae and your skull, comes out and branches off to every organ in your body. So everything. This doesn't even show it all. This is a picture from a 2018 paper called A Review of Vagus Nerve Stimulation as a Therapeutic Intervention. Heart, your spleen, your lung, your diaphragm, so a lot of breathing issues, and even problems like hiatal hernia and acid reflux. Not always, but a lot of times it can be related to the diaphragm being locked up. Liver, the intestines. So anytime I see motility issues, I see delayed stomach emptying, I see acid reflux, I'm wondering about how the vagal nerve is doing. And even things like your thyroid are connected to the vagal nerve. Your trachea for breathing, and think about throat closing. Your esophagus when you're eating, and if you're getting throat closing there, the vagal nerve's involved with all of that, not just the intestines, but also the stomach and the esophagus. So it's very important. Why these two systems are important in mast cell activation syndrome? It's because they are monitoring for fear and safety. Fear and safety. So it all comes back, fear and safety. So we've talked about the mast cells having this constant communication with the nervous system. If the nervous system is communicating safety to the mast cells, they're right there at every nerve ending. So every thought we have, even the mast cells detect. Then the nervous system can communicate safety, or the nervous system can communicate to be afraid, and the mast cells will start to activate to protect us. Okay, so here's a good example that I like to use, and I've told this story before, but I want to share again. I have done experiments, so this was my master's research, was these links between the nervous system and the mast cells, and it's called psychoneuroimmunology is the field. I've done experiments where I've started to ruminate purposely on something really stressful, like financial worries, or political worries, things like that, things I can't control even. And within seconds, my fingers, this is one of my initial responses, my fingers will start to swell. Then I can shift myself into this parasympathetic mode. And I've practiced for a long time, so I can do that just by slowing myself down. And I'm going to show you how I do that here in a minute. By slowing myself down, and the inflammation, the mast cell inflammation from my hands will start to calm down. My gut will start to improve. So you all can do this as well. And let's talk about that. So I want to teach you a nervous system exercise here. I love her facial expression. Do you see how relaxed her eyes are? Do you see how soft her face is? That's one of the ways you can monitor yourself for your nervous system in addition to your breath. A practice I do throughout my day, every day, multiple times a day, and I want to take you through, is that before I start something, I pause, connect with my heart, and feel my breath. And then I also connect my attention to the earth. So some of you that might make sense, some of you that may not. If it doesn't make sense, it's okay. But if it does make sense, you can connect yourself to the earth. And I just slow down for a minute. Then I start to breathe slowly, and I move more slowly. And I am a very fast-paced person naturally. So this is not easy for me. I just want to share that. I'm somebody who, I get on the train in the morning and I'm going all day long. So for me to slow down has taken quite a bit. But if I can do it, I believe you can do it too. So how do I bring this into my life? Every morning when I wake up, I get out of bed, and if my bladder's not too full, I make my bed first. Otherwise, I go to the bathroom, and then I make my bed. And I start my day with doing this, making my bed. I connect with my heart, and I feel gratitude that I have a bed. And then, instead of just rapidly making my bed, which is my general mode, I feel my breath and slowly pull the covers up. And I work on connecting to the earth as I'm doing that as well. So I feel very much in my body. And then I position the pillows lovingly. So I'm setting up this loving environment in my bed for when I go to bed again. So you could do that when you make your bed. I'd like to practice this right now with you. Many times I find when I'm on the computer or on my phone even, or texting, I text really quickly. And I had, for various reasons, had to take a lot of, when I went to high school, we didn't have computers, so I took typewriter classes. And I learned how to type very quickly, about 70 words a minute. And that doesn't help my nervous system actually to go that fast. So when I type something now, let's just try it with typing. I'm going to type into the comments for you. I'm just going to put what I'm experiencing, which is I'm going to slowly type, and I'm connecting with my heart and with the earth and slowing my breath down. I'm connecting with my heart, and I'll post this for you, and my compassion for myself and for everyone here today. So just slowing that down feels entirely different. So I just want to invite you, if you want, to post something and type it really slowly in the comments and do this. So feel your heart, slow your breath down. Gina says it feels really good. Relax your breathing, connect to the earth if that makes sense to you. And then can you type something that's connecting to everybody else on the call, something kind or loving, or wishing people well, or something like that that just connects to your heart. And let's just see what happens here if we do this. So this is an exercise I've not shared before, but it's such a simple one. It takes practice. And let's see what happens as we do this in a community, because it's more powerful. So we've got Evelyn. Let's go to Consolata. It jumped on me. We're healing more and more every day with each breath. Evelyn says, you are loved. We've got prayers for all. Grace to yourself. Jenny says ease. Patty says, this reminds me of exercises Tara Brock teaches. Yes, I followed Tara Brock. She's got beautiful practices. Joanne, we can improve. Be gentle with yourself. Taylor, you are the cosmos. Don't forget it. Love and light, we are safe. We are all on this journey together. Many, all of us with MCAS. Healing vibes. Blessings to you all. Sending positive vibes and energies. There's so many beautiful ones coming in. See what's happening in you. Kathy says, sending calm and healing for everyone as we slow down. Notice what's happening in you. There's so many beautiful ones here. Thank you for doing this with us. This is really beautiful. I love this community. we're creating a container for feeling safe. We're creating a container for feeling compassion. And compassion helps us feel loved. Feeling loved is a state of safety. That in itself is very mast cell calming. And there's all kinds of other things that we do for our mast cells, but just this, tapping into this, you can come back to this if you want. And we also have something on our website called the Hugs with Word Project you can go to and read. So what do you do with all of this? Let me share a few things. So one of the things I say is that supporting this wiring of our bodies is at least 50% of our healing process. Now, we do still have to address our root causes. We've got to get the right supplements, the right foods. We've got to move our triggers out. But this is the first step of the process, the method that I work with and developed for our clinic, and it's called the MC360 method. So I just want to share that with you. So it starts with stabilization and nervous system stabilizing. And then the mast cells we stabilize with mast cell calming agents, removing triggers, supporting sleep. So you can see the rest. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I just want you to have the context of where this, what we're talking about here, is step number 1. And it's so critical that we do this and that we continue to do this. Now, Katrina's asking, what's the difference between limbic and vagal? Well, just want to show you briefly, and I'm going to do a few questions here. I put together a whole course for you all on this called the Mast Cell Nervous System Reboot. And it goes through, just going to pop a little bit up because I don't want to take too much time, but for those of you who are interested, I go through a lot more details of this nervous system mast cell connections and what you need to know about the nervous system, the symptoms of the Haywire mast cells. It's really important to have your score because then you use that to build your custom roadmap. I talk more about triggers and how to address it. And then you build out your custom roadmap of parasympathetic, limbic, and vagal work. And I talk about how to overcome obstacles. And we have some different types of assessments, a lot more than we did today. This was just a tiny little preview. And I added some things today that weren't in that class. But that class is about 3 hours, and there's a Q&A in it. And let me see what else I wanted to share with you about it. So in that class, there is, I have practices just like we did that you learn right away. And then I have practices that there's no one-size-fits-all nervous system course for people with mast cell activation. There's nothing that is a one-stop shop. And I just wanted to share that because that's been the biggest misunderstanding about this course. It's not a one-stop shop. It's a how to build your roadmap so you understand the modalities out there and you can pick what works best for you. So I do have starter practices in there for you. And for those with really mildly haywire mast cells, that's enough. Most of us from the scores I saw were either moderately or severely haywire. So there are other things that you'll need, limbic program, limbic retraining, vagal programs, and so on. So I go through each of these tiers based on how haywire your mast cells are, and you build your roadmap. So how do you find that course? Susan's going to put that in there for you, and I'll pop it up on the screen for you as well for those of you that are interested. And it's called the Nervous System Mast Cell Reboot. And here's the URL for you. So mastcell360.com/mastcell-reboot. Okay. That's most important step 1. And if you're reacting to everything, you're not tolerating anything, or you have any form of autoimmunity. If you scored more than 8 on our survey that we did at the beginning of the Facebook Live, then this course was made for you. And there's a lot more detail about it on that page. So I'll let you, so that we can have some time for Q&A, I'll let you guys go over to that course and take a look at it. Let's get some questions up here. All right, so I'm going to start back here at the top and see how many I can get to. You guys have wonderful questions. Joe was asking about the difference between Gupta and DNRS. I really go into that in that course, Joe, so I want to save that for you so we can get to a few other questions that I haven't covered before. But in this course, I help you decide which one's better for you and how to choose. So I think that'll help you a lot. Leslie's back from being off the grid. That sounds wonderful, Leslie. I hope you had a good time. And let's see, so I'm looking for questions that are about the mast cell nervous system connection. And let's see, Ralph was asking, can a single neurological connection be caused by MCAS? So MCAS does, it's possible, you know, I can't say for certain it's possible, but MCAS does affect at least 2 systems. So you're going to have, fatigue's generally can be considered neurological. Sometimes it's considered systemic, and migraine would be considered neurological. But migraine can be structural, like issues with the upper neck. So sometimes people have more symptoms than they realize. So I don't really know the rest of your situation, but I hope that got you a little bit of info. Let's see. So I'm looking for questions about the material that we covered today. And let's see. Joe also asked, autoimmunity was one of the items on the checklist. What's the relationship? So we do have Joe talked more about the TH1, TH2, and TH17 systems in one of the other Facebook Lives. To go over it in a nutshell, mast cells are involved in both of what's called TH1 and TH2 immunity. So TH1 is about pathogen killing viruses and bacteria. So they have an initial response there. When that side of the immune system gets overwhelmed, then the TH2 system takes over, and that's the chronic inflammatory side. That's mast cell activation syndrome. And the longer that we have chronic inflammation like that, the more that can tip us towards the potential of autoimmunity, which is called TH17. So because there's such a strong link between the nervous system and the mast cells, and the mast cells are the interface with the rest of the immune system, with the endocrine system, and so on. When the nervous system's dysregulated, it dysregulates the mast cells. When the mast cells are dysregulated, it increases risk and flares of autoimmunity. So that's it really in a nutshell there for you. Let's see. Looking for some other questions about what we talked about. Shay is asking if DNRS has helped anyone here. So if you want to let Shay know. And also, if Gupta program has helped you, those are both good limbic programs. Or if you did take the mast cell nervous system reboot, the class I'm talking about that we put together, if that helped you, that may help some other people to know. So yeah, so it's a great question here. Love how our community can come together and help each other. All right, I'm looking for some other quick questions we can get to here over what we covered today. Oh, this is nice, Robin. She talks about when we were going through our practices and slowing down and connecting to her heart and to her breath. She said, this is a great idea. It's calming. I've been trying to do that when I sit down to eat. Yes. I love that. Let's try that too, everybody. Let's see this week, as you're sitting down to eat, can you slow your breath, connect with your heart, connect with the earth, and then eat more slowly? And that also may not be 100%. So remember the pie chart I put up, it can be 50%. It can really help with food reactions. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Robin. Thank you. And then let's see how often. I do it when I'm driving. I try to slow down. I connect with my heart and with the earth. And then I try to remember with compassion that we're all trying to get where we need to go. And because I like to get places quick, that's my natural, my natural personality. So I try to remember we're all trying to get where we want to go. And then Robin also had a question here. I feel when we were doing the practice, I feel my heart rate speeding up. That may happen for people. And why can that happen? There's a few reasons. I don't know specifically for you, but I'm going to share my thoughts and something may resonate. It can be that you're trying to control your heart or control your breath. So there may actually be some forcing or some tension. I see some people doing that and just relaxing into it. And as you're relaxing your breath, don't think about forcing your breath. There was a Rumi poem called, I believe it was called The Guest. And it was about feelings, but we can apply this to the breath. It's about allowing feelings or the breath to come at its own pace. And in that poem, he talks about you invite it in like you invite a guest into your home. Now, if you have a dear friend showing up at your doorstep, you probably don't grab their arm and pull them in. That would feel aggressive, right? And you don't want to grab your breath and pull it down. That feels aggressive to the nervous system. We just invite it. You just have to have the intention for it to slow down. And over time it will at its own pace. So let it go at its own pace. Let you go at your own pace. Don't try to force it. The other thing I see happen is that remember that our limbic system, our nervous system, and mast cell axes are there to protect us, and their job is to keep us safe, even if they're very dysregulated and the way they're doing it seems to not be as helpful as we would like. But they're locked into their state for a reason. So that state of being really locked down, particularly for people who feel anxious or worried all the time, and I felt that I used to have daily panic attacks. And this is why I say if I can do this stuff, you guys can do it too, because I was a wreck, you all. You have no idea how much of a wreck I was. And I've come a really long way. So with practice, you will too. And when we're in that lockdown state, it feels comfortable and safe to be uncomfortable. And something new can feel scary. So we may need to shift into it very, very slowly. Some people experience this when they start vagal or limbic work. And this is why I say if you're in the severely haywire mast cell category, start with just 1 or 2 minutes of things. Go very slowly, because you don't want to hit your nervous system with a sledgehammer over into the parasympathetic. It's just going to lock back down harder. You want to use a feather and just coax and coax with love and kindness and compassion. So I hope that helps, Robin. I think other people probably had that same question, so hopefully that something in there resonated with you. All right, I can get to maybe 2 more. Sharon, on the numbers that constitute mild, moderate, and severe, Sue's posted that for you, and then I go over it more in the course, but you can take a look at the links that Sue's posted for the Haywire quiz, and it'll give you all of that. And Tanya's asking, is there a resource quicker than the class? Good question, Tanya, because I saw your notes about how much you're suffering there, and I'm so sorry that you're suffering. This is not everything. This is a big chunk, and it's important. And some of us need to get out of our triggers and exposures. And if we're really in dire position, we need to work with a medical provider, and we may need to get medications to calm it down. And that's okay. And sometimes they have to be compounded and so on. But those are some of the quicker resources, Tanya, to do that. And I don't know your case, but from what I saw, that might be something to discuss with your medical provider. And I was in places where I was having daily anaphylaxis and I was resistant to using meds because I had some bad experiences and I didn't understand the different categories and classes or how to introduce them slowly. And I did myself a disservice. So if I could go back again, I would have gotten compounded things and started with a little dusting and water and built up. And I would have realized how much mold exposure I was in because that was keeping me really sick. So hopefully something in there, Tanya, can help you, and our encouragement and good wishes go out to you. All right, let's pick one more to wrap up with. I wish I could get to all of them. They're really great questions and wonderful comments here. Let's see. And Tanya, there are a lot of free resources, so do check out our blogs, our Facebook Lives, and the oh, I should actually tell you, here, let's end with this. I forgot to mention this. This is important for you all. If you want to do the course, we've got a summit special for 25% off the course. So it's off the nervous system reboot and off the mast cell nervous system reboot and both levels, the beginner and advanced of the mold course. So the code is 2022 Summit. We don't do sales very often. So this is the only sale we'll have this year, and but we do try to help you all out. And so 25% off with the code 2022 Summit for any of our courses. I'm sorry, for the nervous system and the mold courses. And you can find the courses over at our website. The other place you can see all the courses is here. I'll put down for you mastcell360.com/courses. And then let me put the coupon code up again. It's a 25% off with 2022 Summit. I'm going to pop this up for you. So that's where you can find all the courses. Then you can click in. You can read all about them if you like. Let our team know through Facebook or through using our contact page if you have questions. Now, what's coming up next week? Let me share this with you as we're wrapping up. Next week, I'm really excited. We're going to do a mold week. So a little like Shark Week, except calmer, and all about mold. And I'm going to go into some depth that I've not gone into before about testing for mold toxicity. So that's going to be Monday, the same time that we did today. So next Monday, I believe that's November 6th. 2 p.m. Eastern, it's 11 Pacific, 12 Mountain, 1 Central. And if you're in a different time zone than those, you can use a time zone converter online to convert to 2 p.m. Eastern. Because don't forget, at least where we are, we're going to have time change. So if you don't do time change or your time changes differently, use that time zone converter. So I'd love for you to join us live if you can. As we're wrapping up here, let's just together one more time, if you can, just put your hands on your heart if that feels good, or whatever it feels good. Let's connect with your heart, with our hearts. Slow down our breaths. Just invite the breath to relax and slow down. Invite our muscles to relax and slow down. Experience compassion for ourselves, and then offer that compassion out to each other and all of us that are here in this community. Thank you all so much for being with us today. It's really an honor to be with you, and I'm really looking forward to being with you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day.